Get your jumpers, shirts from 3Air London, Instagram on the screen. Use the discount code Sarchie14 for 10% off. HS on deck, no meds, my S bake off with gap. Yes. Yo, Sarchie14 back with another reaction, another video, another discussion drill video. I just want to start this one off by saying thank you for the support on this series. I think every video is over 2,000 views in this series. Very, very sick. Even Ispot from Earth B, I said on the community page, even Ispot texted me saying he's watching the series and he's subscribed to the channel with notifications on. So Ispot, if you're watching this, shout out to you. But today's video, he doesn't feature in this one here. Today we're talking about what makes a good drill verse or what makes a good drill rapper, Crud or Wordplay. And I tried to do this video 2 seconds ago, but I flopped it because I was going to do it without a script. But I wanted to have some notes on this. Now, let's just, to get it started, one of my favourite drill verses ever, and one that I didn't hear when the song initially dropped, but when I eventually did hear it, it placed itself higher than most verses I've heard at that point. GB's verse on City of God, and that whole song for me, even though it's not really, you never hear it in discussions for best verses, best songs ever, I think that's one of the best drill songs of all time. And the reason why, it's just drill. Like, that's what drill's supposed to be. Bro double tap like he's liking a pick. That makes sense. Like, that bar there, double tap like he's liking a pick. Like, that makes sense to say that it's not forced. It's something that would naturally come to your head. Like, you double tap on a picture, you double tap. Like, stuff like that, when it naturally comes in the bar. And I've literally listened to that verse again twice just now before recording. Pretty certain that's the only like proper wordplay he said in that whole verse. RIP GB, but that verse really stuck with me, and the fact that he died as well really hurt. Hearing that verse as well, RIP to him, because that verse there for me is all a drill verse needs to be. You're just, without going into too much detail, and we will talk about that, but without going into too much detail, you're just explaining your life. You're just doing what Ed Sheeran does. Ed Sheeran just makes music about his life. He doesn't go into detail. When he's talking about beating girls, he's not saying how I slipped it in. He's just letting you know, like he says, I'm dancing with girls and that. Same way with drill. I don't need to hear exactly how someone's life ended, but it's your life at the end of the day. I'm not going to tell you off for that. I'm not going to judge you for that. That's your life. You didn't choose to live that life. So, some Crud rappers I've listed: NPK, CB, Yanko, Striker, Young Diz, KK, Trizak, and On Drills. When you hear music from those guys, you're not thinking that they got A star in GCSE English. You're just thinking, okay, their life is a little bit mad. Some go into more detail than others. Some just mock it. Like Trizak mocks it. He doesn't go into mad detail. He just laughs in it. And every single verse, he just mocks it. If that's his style of music, that's his style of music. I'm not going to judge him for that. I rate that he's doing his thing. Ages ago, he was asked, do you make music to blow or to just diss your rivals? And he said, fam, I just make music to diss them. I don't really care about blowing for music. But you'll notice I listed CB, and I put CB cemented in my top 3 spot. And that's my way of saying there's nothing wrong with Crud. Like, you don't have to have wordplay. And in one song, I think it was Top of the League on his album, he said, like Ronaldo, the way I'm scoring these goals, something like that. It didn't fit. Like, you can tell CB's not that type of rapper that uses wordplay. Like, he does Crud without forcing it in your face. But again, we'll talk about that later. But for me, that's why CB ranks so highly, because you can tell the life the guy lives. Like, if you met him on road, you're not asking for a selfie. You're not asking for a selfie from that guy. You're gonna keep him. You might spot him, but you're gonna keep it moving. But whereas like with a Digger, like I met Digger, I asked for a selfie. I'm not scared of that guy. But a CB, Anyway, and then other people like Young Diz on this list. Young Diz, On Drills. I'm not asking for pictures when I see these guys, because the stuff they talk about, it's just crazy. NPK, if I saw them, I might start walking a little bit quicker. However, the wordplay rappers, Blanco, RV, Heady, Fizzler, T-Way, KO, just to name a few. This isn't everyone, but these are the people where, if it's like a weighing scale, their scale's more tilted to the wordplay. It's not 100%, because you're trying to tell me RV never talks Crud in his music. RV, he talks Crud. But with them, they can balance it. So you're hearing less of the Crud. You're still hearing it, but you're hearing less of it. Even some of these people I've put under wordplay. I hear some wordplay from Trizak verses. I'm not using a sat nav or something, but you get touched by my GPS. That's wordplay, but that's not all he does. Like, that's like a rare occasion. Whereas most of the time, if you're listening to Trizak, you know what you're gonna get. However, with these wordplay rappers like a Blanco, for example, the whole of Shipperton, fam, like, fried my brain. And Memphis as well, like, with me and Blanco, he's like in a league of his own, because he just uses bare like anime references. Like, as I said, I previously stated, I'm not spending my afternoons watching cartoons like I'm back in year 3. And I know this is gonna cause hate in the comments. That's why I'm saying it. That's why I'm saying it. Fam, I don't get that. I don't watch anime. I won't understand half the stuff he says, which is, it's a shame. But the other stuff, like when he says running through doors like Takeshi's Castle, I'll get stuff like that. If you're a cultured human being, you will understand like stuff like that. So with wordplay rappers, it's more of how smart they are. Not everyone can do that. With Crud, anyone who lives that life, because it's the thing, they all live the same life. So anyone who lives that life, theoretically, could just go in a booth and start talking mad Crud. But the wordplay rappers, it takes a special rank above that. Like a certain level of intellectuality, if that's even a word. You have to be intellectual to go into the booth and do what KO does, where he says something about Tommy Hilfiger. If you've heard KO, this one, KO TSM, like the guy, their brains are wired differently with the wordplay rappers. But this is where it starts to get a bit interesting. You'll notice some of the people I class in my top 10 in drill, PS, Mizzlemac, Quengface, you haven't heard them yet. Well, they all come under the bit of both. This, for me, is where it starts to get interesting, because the category, the caliber of rapper that you're about to hear now, it's above the others that I've mentioned so far. Mizzlemac, PS, Digger, AM, Unknown T, V9, Quengface, Karma. These people here, they blend a little bit of both. Karma, you can argue he's more, with Karma and Trizak, there's not too much difference, but Karma does use a significant amount more of wordplay. Like when I'm listening to Karma, I'm like Out of Line, for me, off the top of my head, is Karma's best show of wordplay. Like when he says stuff about, you feel what I'm saying like Braille. Are you stupid? You feel what I'm saying like Braille, blind people. You see on boxes of medicine where there's those dots, because blind people need to take their meds, but they can't read what it's saying, so they feel it. They feel what it's saying like Braille. And Karma, you don't want to CK like Calvin Klein. Stuff like that, that's wordplay, whether you like it or not. Yes, he's talking Crud. He's the reason everyone says put in a spliff. But even though E1 started that, but that's a whole nother debate. But the fact is, Karma can do the put in a spliff talk, but he can also do wordplay. Like he can categorically do both. Mizzlemac, he talks Crud, whether you like it or not. Mizzlemac's more flows. He's more flows, but he can talk Crud. He can do wordplay. See man draw for the sword like Shaman. Everyone knows what verse that's from. I'm come fatter than Griffin. You know what I'm talking about. You know who says that stuff. That's wordplay. If you're saying the word like, that's a simile. That's wordplay. And obviously PS as well. For me, PS is the best example of blending both. Because you listen to a PS verse, you're like there's not one verse you listen to where you're not deep in it. The guy must be to some degree on this road life. Because what he's saying, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm not saying that. But then some of the wordplays coming up with, I can understand it and I can emulate it. Whenever I'm writing raps out of boredom, I can do stuff similar to that. Because you have to be a certain level of smartness to do it. And for me, that's what makes PS so sick. Because he can blend the both effortlessly. Just go listen to his voice in the streets. My examples of best Crud verses: On Drills in Certified, straight Crud. If you've heard it on Spotify with no censoring, straight Crud. And On Drills on Still on the O. The reason that verse blew is because of how cruddy it is. Yanko and Anyone Can Go, Tragedy, Young Diz got bun and shaved, I guess he just lost some calories. Who's saying that? Ask my man where he's from, why is he telling me his nationality? That's Crud. That's just straight Crud. That's what makes Yanko so popular. Because for me, why I like Yanko, he can do both. He actually has got a little bit of wordplay, but you're not thinking that when you're listening to him. That's what the difference is between these rappers. Yes, they have wordplay, but you're not thinking about that when you're listening to a Young Diz verse. Young Diz has some wordplay, whether you like it or not. If you listen to his verses, he knows what he's talking about, but you're not listening out for that. Put one hand on my thumb, I'll kick your kid right out of the pram. What? What? You're not listening out for wordplay when you're listening for an Undrills, Yanko or Young Diz. And ND and Exposing Ops. Disgusting. Like, I'm not even going to repeat some of the stuff he says. Disgusting. Everyone's heard that. But then, best wordplay verses or songs, KO and TSM. Go listen to that right now. You'll understand wordplay. Listening back to it, he does literally just say like throughout the whole song. But it's the fact that he can make those comparisons in a drill song, a genre that's always talked down upon. Go listen to Incognito's when he talked to Mr. Montgomery about whether or not drill music is to blame for the violence. That's why I always have respect for Incognito, because the way he spoke was just so perfectly. He said, yes, it's partly to blame, but it's been going on before this music. Anyway, point is, why did I say that? Yeah, KOTSM, The point is, drill music's always talked down upon, but then you're getting people like KO who can say this mad stuff with the wordplay. Like, listen to KO and Digga D, I heard. Because you're hearing the crud. The crud comes through the wordplay. It's not just crud. There's wordplay through, the crud's coming through the wordplay. That's what the difference is between these rappers. And Blanco and No Hook, if you're listening to what he's saying, because a lot of people, they sleep on Blanco because wordplay wasn't popular back then. That's the thing. Even when PS is saying some stuff and he gets credited for it, primarily wordplay, like rappers who are focusing on wordplay only really became a thing 2018, 2019. So when Blanco's spazzing, even Kenton where it started, Blanco's verse, cold. 21st Century Spartans, Blanco, every single verse, Kent Nizzy, any Blanco verse you hear, Jason Bourne. The whole thing about Blanco always been wordplay. Only just now, the reason he's getting bigger off of it now is because now there's more of a focus on it. But his style really hasn't changed. He's excelled, he's advanced his sound, but it hasn't changed at all. And Heady One in Rose Gold, if you see my reaction, you'll see that song was just beautiful. Like the way he can balance, he's still saying some stuff. His knife work lethal like Bizzle. Perfect example, the crud comes through the wordplay. He's literally saying someone's knife work is lethal like Bizzle. So technically it's wordplay. Best example of both crud and wordplay coming through. Mizzo Max versus No Hook. Like I said, I'm fatter than Griffin. But when you're listening to what he's saying, he was my friend from years, but it's from there, soon you're victim. That's crud. He's literally telling you, I was friends with that guy, but because he lives there, when I next see him, it's long for him. But then he's also saying, I'm fatter than Griffin. So in the same verse, he's still showing off his wordplay. PS's whole voice of the streets, stupid. The one on the first beat, stupid. And anytime AM spoken French or just started doing like maths tutor halfway through a drill verse, perfect example of both. And that's why those three, if you were to do an average survey of who's your top three in drill, the highest percentage or combination would be PS, Mizzo Mac and AM, because those three, they just do it, both of it perfectly. So this video, I feel like I'm waffling too much. I don't know if you guys got a feel of that, whether it's still a good video, but just to wrap it up, these guys are the three best because of how naturally and effortlessly they blend the two. CB talks crud without pushing it right in your face. Like when you're listening to CB, you know what he's talking about. He's not lying. Categorically, he's not lying. But at the same time, he's not describing exactly how stuff has happened. Whereas ND and exposing ops, like that kind of music makes you feel uncomfortable. Like I skip that song when it comes on. I have to be in a very angry mood, like when Arsenal lose to Brighton, to go listen to a song like that just to take my anger out. But that's no disrespect to Andy. I literally spoke to him yesterday. He follows me on Instagram. I rate him. But stuff like that, I'm not trying to listen to that on a Sunday. So I've been Sarchie on for. I feel like I'm waffling too much. I feel bad, but I feel like I've got my point across. Like, for me, you have to blend both to be a good rapper. If you're too heavily focused on the crud, and then, because I react to music, people are suggesting react to this guy, I'm going to prioritize the wordplay over that, and especially I'm going to prioritize the crud and wordplay over that, because I know at least there, it's relatively balanced. It's like, you know, FIFA, 49% possession in like 90% of your games. That's how I like my wordplay, that's how I like my crud balanced.
Perfectly balanced. This whole thing should be.
I don't want it whole wordplay because then I just feel like I'm back in sixth form doing up English A-level. But then I don't want it all crud because then I feel like I'm watching some murder documentary, like some serial killer documentary. So for me, it needs to be balanced. That's why I did the poll, Yanko or Ondros, who do you guys like more? Because they're both overrated. Don't get me wrong, I like them both very, very much. Yeah, I like their music. But all this talk about top 5, it's doing them a disservice, because Ondros will turn around and tell you he's not top 5 in Harlem. He can name within his own set 5 rappers that are better. Like I literally said, as someone's trying to tell me Zico and Blanco aren't better than him. What are you talking about? Same with Yanko. I do not want to hear any talk about Yanko being the best in 7th when CB is in that same set. But that's all I have to say. But then don't get me wrong, they still make good music. The verses I stated, I like those verses. Like that's why I put them in the video. Anyway, I've been Sarchie on 4. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. I'll be back again soon.